guys, and welcome back. So if you follow my channel, you know I put videos out almost every day. I did take a week off, and I'm here today returning with a very special guest. Her name is Leeza Woodbury, and she's a parent. She'd been following my content, and she saw some of my videos, and she asked me if we can have an open and honest conversation. Because as a parent, she's doing the best thing she can for her child, but she's confused as to what the right thing to do is. Something I discovered last November when I started my TV show, Bridge the Gap, is that often autistic adults and parents of children that were diagnosed with autism are not on the same page. And I wanted to do everything I could possible to bridge that gap and make sure that the community is united. So professionals, adults, children, parents were all working together. And so I was so excited when Leeza approached me and said, what do? I don't know the right thing to do. And we really thought it would be beneficial to just have an open and honest conversation, because if Leeza's thinking that, she's probably not the only one. She's the first parent, though, that I've ever heard have the courage to actually say that. And I'm so excited and proud of her. And someone has to go first. And Leeza, thank you so much for being willing to go first today and come on here and just talk openly and honestly about how hard it really is as an autism parent to know the right thing to do.
Of course. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to have an open and honest conversation about a challenging topic.
Yeah, absolutely. So when did you first discover that autistic adults were not on the same page with a lot of the parents that maybe were in your community or in your online community? And like, how did that feel for you at first?
So it's been pretty recent that I kind of came to that realization. Most of my experience with autism and other parents of children with autism came about this last year in 2019 when my son was diagnosed. And most of my interactions with adults with autism has been through observation in social media and kind of reactions to especially Autism Awareness Month. I know there's a lot of feelings about autism awareness versus autism acceptance. And that's kind of where I got my really first big taste of this, to see that there is a big gap between what parents might be experiencing and how we're trying to filter through the information versus those who have kind of lived it, into their adulthood.
Yeah, and like one of the things I want people to know when they come here to this channel is you're going to get brutally honest, really just vulnerable, brutally honest truth. And for me, I worked with kids with autism for 11 years before I ever thought about what adults with autism or autistic adults. And we know even I talked about earlier today that even there's a different controversy over which one to use, first person language or identity first language. But I never really thought about the fact that autistic adults had a point of view or perspective. And I think that even when I started working with kids with autism or autistic kids 11 years or 12 years ago now, there really was no unified autistic adult community. I think social media has created that. And I think that and people ask, and you even asked me, well, why, is it all of a sudden there's this gap? And it's new. Like the idea that social media is unifying an autistic adult community is new. And I think professionals and parents, we have to listen. And it provides us a really good opportunity to learn, what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong. And it's something that I didn't know until recently. And I had autistic adults who, and it's how I found out, is they started reading my blog posts and my videos, and I was intending to do good. And they were saying, hey, this is not true, or this makes me feel a certain way, in which I didn't want to create that. And so I started to listen to what they were saying. And for me, I think what sets me apart now from other professionals is I just completely redid my website. I'm working on every day updating and rewriting blog posts that no longer reflect the values that I even had when I started my company. And I updated my company's core values, and autism acceptance and autism awareness are both core values for me. I believe in both of them. I believe that parents have to be empowered to know the best way to help their kids. But I also believe that a parent's job is to make their children the best, or help their children become the best version of themselves, not to change who they are. So as a parent, very few parents are trying to do that. Most parents, they want to fix autism. And I think that's where the gap comes, because people that are autistic, they don't want to be fixed. Right? They just want to be accepted and loved and nurtured and supported. So as a parent, how are you able to do that? Because a lot of parents watching this video, they may not be able to do that. And what was that like for you, that journey of coming to that understanding?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is really just educating myself. I will be brutally honest, I was completely ignorant to what autism is, how it's diagnosed, and how it can affect a person. So this has been a huge learning curve for me as well, going from basically zero to trying to absorb all the knowledge I can. And my biggest thing has been creating a team around me of professionals and other parents and people who have experienced autism in their lives, whether it's personally or through family members, and just getting all of the knowledge that I can and trying to see what works best for my son. He's only 4.5, and he's not verbal enough to tell me how he's feeling, how he's thinking. All I see is a behavior. He gets upset or throws himself on the floor, and just realizing that those behaviors are not him acting out. It is his way as an autistic child showing me, hey mom, something's wrong, help me. And I don't want to change those behaviors. I just want to help him learn how he can help himself. So whether that's through ABA and setting goals with ABA to help him feel emotions and discover what he can do, whether it's proprioceptive input or verbalizing something like I need a break, simple things to help him feel less of those big emotions. And I personally have spoken to other parents who want to set those goals to change those autistic-like behaviors, whether it's flapping or some sort of stimming, and that's personally not what I want to do for my child, because that helps him manage what he's feeling. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't understand that myself. And I didn't even, and I commend you as a parent for figuring that out so early, because I was a professional for over a decade before I realized that by really telling autistic kids you can't flap your hands, or you should modify your behavior to make me more comfortable, to make neurotypical people more comfortable, that I was denying them part of who they are, and that it really took a toll on their social and emotional well-being. So my perspective of what I thought was, well, okay, you know what, I'm going to help these kids, and the way I'm going to help them to have a positive social experience and self-esteem is to fit in, to look like everybody else so other kids will accept them. And that's the perspective I came from. And I was genuinely doing what I thought was best with the information that I had, right? I always had a good heart, but I realized now I made a mistake. And if I could go back and fix it, I would, but all I can do now is moving forward, help people understand. And I did this by talking to autistic adults who said, it comes at a cost. When we have to deny everything of who we are, it is every time someone asks me to stop flapping my hands, it's denying a part of me. I'm changing myself. He's like, I feel, and adults would tell me, I just feel so fundamentally rejected by society. And that was never my intention to create that for anyone, for children or for adults. And so I changed my perspective, and I learned, okay, it's not the right thing to do. You have to accept people for who they are. And really, what does it matter if someone's flapping their hands? Like, why does that bother me? If that's something, and what I've learned is that oftentimes when children are doing that, or adults are doing that, when they're engaging in stimming behaviors, that it literally has to do with the fact that there's more cortical neurons being produced in their brain, and there's a difficulty with their frontal cortex of the brain to communicate with the rest of their body. And so it literally, like, kind of, so to speak, disperses those extra cortical neurons and makes them feel better. Like, they actually physically feel better. And I don't think someone, who's doing something benign should, and there's one thing, like, exceptions, sometimes stimming behaviors are dangerous to other people or to children. And obviously we're not talking about a child banging their head on the floor or, pulling someone's hair. But if something isn't hurting anyone, I think they should be allowed to do it. And I think that more people need to be willing to accept that. And I think that it comes from a lack of understanding and a lack of awareness. And that's why I think autism awareness and autism acceptance go hand in hand, because you can't accept, or it's harder to accept something if you don't understand it. So as a parent, if you understand when your child is flapping their hands, it makes them feel better. And that, like, let's just say you have like a brain freeze, or you drink too much coffee and you're like frantic one day, or everyone's experienced overwhelm. Everyone's experienced decision fatigue. At the end of the day, as an adult, you can't make any more decisions. We've all experienced anxiety. We know what that feels like. And as a parent, you wouldn't want your child to be experiencing that. And if you knew that your child could feel better, that made them feel better, I would hope as a parent you would make the decision to let them do that. As opposed to, as a parent, you're just thinking, I don't want other parents to judge me. I don't want other kids to look at my child differently. That's a person's ego getting in the way. And that's really something a parent has to deal with, really not a child. And I think it's something that as an adult, I feel like it's easier for a parent to accept that than for a child to deny themselves.
Agreed. Yeah, and that's kind of my whole purpose of my blog and just being a parent of an autistic child. I've experienced that at the local playground, going and my son might do something that seems a little odd to other people, and I know why he's doing it, and he's perfectly happy, and might get strange looks, or younger children might come and ask and be like, hey, why is he doing that? That's weird. And I use it as an opportunity to be like, oh, well, my son, he's autistic, so he's doing that right now to help calm himself down. Or, the sun might be too bright, or that loud truck, it was really loud. And so just use it as an opportunity, because you are so right. Awareness and acceptance go hand in hand. You can't accept something if you're not even aware of it. If you don't even have a fundamental understanding of what autism is. And so that's where I think it's really important for the parent perspective, because not to throw a pity party or to take away any of the challenges that my son is living with each day. Parents need support too, because we are our children's advocates until they can advocate for themselves. And we have to educate ourselves, and we have to embrace it, and we have to be accepting and loving to our children and anything that they may be experiencing or exploring or portraying, and just so that we can help them and then help the others around them understand them better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think autism acceptance, it comes in two parts for a parent. There's accepting your child, and then there's accepting yourself and your struggle. And sometimes parents just need the validation of hearing someone else say it. Like, I know you had said to me that you watched one of my videos I did with John D. Richmond, who's one of my partners on the father course I put out. And he talked about his son stimming, and he said it's just so annoying. And that's something that every parent will think, and his son makes these really loud sounds, but not everyone has the courage to say. So as a parent of a child that's autistic, you don't have everything figured out, and you don't always know what to do, and that's okay. And I think that parents need to hear from other parents that you don't have it all figured out either, even though you have a blog and even though you're sharing what you're learning in your journey, that you don't always know what to do either. So if you can kind of talk to the parent who's judging themselves because of the fact that they don't necessarily know how to best help their kid, what would you say to that parent to help them understand that nobody does and that everyone's trying to figure it out together?
Exactly. We're not mind readers, and we, as a parent, and if you're a non-autistic parent, there's no way for you to fully understand what your child is experiencing or going through, even if they are able to verbalize it. And you just really have to give yourself the space to accept that you don't know everything. And you really just need to take the opportunity to build a team of people around you that you can ask those questions to, that you can vent to, that you can be like, why is he doing this? Like, help me understand so that I can be more patient. And just knowing that, like, that insecurity of like, am I doing the right thing? Am I being a good enough parent to my child that's autistic? Just know that probably majority of the parents are feeling that. You're not alone. And I think just educating yourself and trying to see what works for your child, because nobody with autism is the same. And I know you have a quote that speaks to that. There's a quote out there that says, like, no, there's no two like autistic people that are alike, or I'm not sure of this exact quote, but it's so true. My son is not like any of the other 4-year-olds in his class. And so learning your child and their needs and trying to see what works for them and for you as a parent to self-care and educate yourself is super important.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the quotes, and I think this is the one you're talking about, that I'm known for is my belief that one size fits no one when it comes to autism. And I think that other quote is, if you've met one child with autism, you've met one child with autism. And that really does true. And that's the premise of really what I'm trying to do here. Now, I love your blog title. It is probably the coolest blog title I've ever seen. It is MommaAF.com. So how did you come up with that name, and what does it mean?
Well, I was playing around with names, and I'm like, we'll have to find something that is relatable to, this century. And AF is a play on, the trendy social media term. But really the premise behind Mama AF is that being Mama AF can be whatever it means for you, however parenting is for you. And only you can define how you are as a parent. People looking in can place all their judgments on your parenting styles, especially when you're a parent of an autistic child. People can look in and think that you're doing something wrong, not knowing, underlying circumstances. But really, it's just being about being the best parent you can be to your child. And that's what I'm trying to do here, is to share our story and hope that it helps other people, whether you have an autistic person in your life, whether it's a child, grandson, nephew, or if you're just trying to educate yourself to be more well-versed on the topic.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, there have always been a lot of parents and professionals involved in the autism acceptance movement, the Different Not Less movement. Temple Grandin started that, and it's existed since the 70s, but it was like far and few between. And the predominant voice, particularly on social media, was really just of autism needs to be cured, and it's a disease to be cured. And it was, the Defeat Autism Now walks and doctors. And now there's this new movement, and I'm so excited to be part of it with you, to really promote autism awareness and acceptance. I do believe that 5 years from now, we'll look back and everyone will be having these conversations. But I'm excited that we're the OGs of bringing this to social media. Like I said, this has always existed, but not a lot of people were creating content and just deploying it over social media to really share it and make it more mainstream. So I'm excited we get to do that together. It's an honor to collaborate with you. So I would encourage parents to head over to Leeza's blog, Mama AF. The link is in the comments below, and check it out, because it's really important that we come from this perspective, and parents just creating a community and just refreshing support and honest and brutal and vulnerable conversations is really the way to move forward. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you watch it to the end, subscribe to the channel. I usually put out videos every day. I did take a week off on vacation, but I am back now. So you'll be seeing the videos again every day this week. If you have a question or you'd like to be a guest on my on the channel, head over to my website, hopeeducationservices.com. Just fill out the form there, and that'll send you an email. You can reply with your request or your question. See everyone soon on tomorrow's video, and thanks again, Leeza, for coming on.